Our car slowed down into Somerset, sky blue cut through by jet streams, points east on the map in my hands, folded around sweat and your laugh, too huge for the car to hold, ripped through the windows and rolled past Prairie into Cambodia. While you blasted seas of wheat with your camera, the two of us hunted gas stations, old buildings, language and landscape for the lens. A year later, with a backpack full of pages, a head full of novels, you leapt into your own picture, landed in the heat and energy of Vietnam, and, just like your characters, disappeared, your huge laugh overwhelmed.
If I could say, I means cell self split into two, only one I, only one you, and boundaries are fluid. Only one bright blue cord between what is I or what is you. Can't take it all back. Don't want to. The way words hang. Tangible, the air shifts. Smell that sentence. Vanilla sweet hair sucks in syllables with milk. Spits it out later and still knows. If I leave the sun behind, call that creative. Or resist something inevitable and calls it prophetic, or if I writes an arm, a leg, the softness of the inside of thighs, rough fingers dance the skin, can't take it back, or wrist walks, night streets, breeze, wet air, licks up strangers' conversation, crowds damp, skin sticky, sweat, trickles and a lips, or quickly chains together, links plastic words just bounce off, hit passers-by, all those he, she's, and like he knows, resist gathering. Vocal, audible words dance and look, watch where they go, hang the air, now tense again. Cry, that baby's voice, eyes roll into quiet, what he meant to say, only black, white, and oh, if I could say, not wanting to.
Highway 2 to Sylvan Lake. Night flying across prairie. We hung suspended, 2 feet of space. The wheels of the car never touched. Landscape punctuation. Space, a question interspersed with prose of bedroom towns. Conversation drifted from topic to thought, following the highway's unravel. We dreamed. Talked of roads and writing and rain. Rain, like silver on the road. When we arrived, you claimed sanctuary, screaming, and I'll never go back.
We shelter in the fingers of dead kings, among crumbling palaces that make a skeleton of the sunset land, and watch the horizon shimmering with golden dreams and long-remembered hatreds, wheeling in bright sword circles. Cyrus wrote his triumph here in blood now dry, quiet, anonymous. Try though we might, we can never understand. So we drink the wine of 7 plagues and listen to the 7 trumpets in our heads, and for a moment the fruit of memory blooms here again for us. We have brought the ghosts of 1,000 years past back to this dead ground to dance to the whispered music echoing through the bones of history. The tree of life has arisen from the dust. And so the moon shines full and bright, swollen overhead in the whirl of the planets, and the land becomes a new language, strange and pale, where words wait for us beneath the sand.
This way Crow's Nest is. 7 sisters watch, fascination with trains, breath in the cold morning air, envelopes. Narrative frames without glue, pulp in the orange juice, empty towns, interrogation of strangers, laptops. Coffee weak enough to see through, charms to stop the rain, wild purple orchids unnamed, coal pull from ground left underfoot, asking the final score. Late night drink talk, mountains, words taken to the literal meaning, word ticks, elk and bears, mass graves. 3 men in a pickup without destination, just determination, green hotel, the red spades. Winnipeg, Edmonton, Vancouver, Chase, Montreal, London, Lethbridge, Calgary. Blairmore, Hillcrest, Lille, Cole, Bellman, View, Frank. Crow's Nest is this way. Crow's Nest is this way. This way to the border, this way to what? This way, simply don't know where it goes this way. This way to anger, simply don't know the anger in the center of the poem. In the center, don't want to be in the center. Leave me on the outskirts, leave me on the edge. Leave me marginal. Can't be on the margins. Can't be the red spade. Dig with the red spade. See what's found. Lost space, lost letters, somewhere in the middle of this lost space is the location of a place. This is not an empty space. This is Crow's Nest. This is Lille. Don't care if there are no people now. The location exists in the memory, the snapshots, in the only names left on the broken bricks. No doubt this was once someone's.
My father and my brother don't get along. My brother thinks my father only wants to lecture him. My father thinks my brother doesn't respect him. They walk the same way, though. My father makes terrible ice cream. Once he made mint, which he tried to force-feed my brother by jumping on his back and shoving a handful in his mouth. Patrick flipped him, although Dad's half a foot taller. My brother and mother were in China. Patrick says, I should get Dad a present. My mother says, how about a cookbook? Patrick says, no, a gong. He'll love it. Patrick gave Dad the gong. Dad said, I've always wanted a gong. I don't understand how Patrick knew that my father would love a gong. But he sounds it every night before dinner and says in a grand voice, dinner is served. Dad does all the cooking. Patrick sometimes brings it to the dinner table and gongs us when he thinks we're being boring. So whenever he says anything, my mother and I yell, gong, which at this point my dog thinks is her name. So she either goes crazy with glee, although she doesn't froth at the mouth, or sinks in the floor with sickening embarrassment, as though she's done something wrong.
The perfumed garden is just macho bullshit. Weaving flowers into hair, waterfalls and ponds that don't ripple, lotus leaves and draped saris, rose petals and gold, princes and sirens calling you in, calling your name. The perfumed garden doesn't really exist. There are no palaces anymore, no walls that allow you to see out and not in, wind howling through corridors, blowing out candles, incense burns, jasmine and coriander, always and always. The perfumed garden is the space between your fingers, the softness of lips and the curve of your back. The perfumed garden breathes to my rhythm, comes alive when I awake, and has all my poems memorized. In my perfumed garden, there is always the smell of warm summer rain on newly cut grass. The perfumed garden is just macho bullshit.
First, the youngest novillero gored by the raging bullet. Later, a month's mind as geese fly over stones, south where fallen leaves are not stained red. On the first, the ninth first, stare down the barrel, stare the bull down, novillero. Blood-clotting frost, flesh fabric explode, Julian weeping lest he forget the transformation on the 11th, the world's novena. One, nova, one end, one beginning, novella.
Oh, give me 100 grams of poetry. Here we are. How often everything felt like the donkey, vulture, flea, squirrel, porcupine, beagle, beaver, badger, starfish, armadillo, dingo, dove, dingo, dove, donkey, donkey. The odds are stacked like bodies. Like in the textbook, you see the graph, the exact point you find yourself 4 legs up, a cross between an exercise bike and a toilet. Tell them how much money they can have. They want the most miniature mallets. Escape. The color of a lawn to a billy goat, the sad song of the chicken, the little tin mouse with ice cream balloons, kisses his kisses. The people bear because the people bear could. Mash. Ponderosa pine, the right round rock, luscious little tuft of astroturf, disturbing the fragile ecosystem of a gas bar berm, used wood chips as dues for the great beaver and bushels of apples. Throat. Raleigh slugsuckers. Boy, am I full, and I didn't even choke. Raleigh slug suckers, any gift gives it away, any gift is grief in all its guises. A jar of wounds like a pearl in a cow's brain. Down with still testing questions.
You never had it so good, this goddamn country, Christ. I would lose more than wild flowers and eat more than pomegranate seeds to get away from this daily worse than 5 long winters, where everything mental freezes up harder than rock hard and imperceptibly becomes slower and slower until we realize perhaps the thinking world is out of orbit, or the powers that be aren't thinking only of energy for tomorrow and sleep and sex. If I could get it, I would think of much more than crying over spilt milk, or the possibility of missing winter in Greece, say, or Alberta, Persephone. How about coming over here a day and you'd be scrambling back to hell so fast the red, red rose would barely have time to open its bloom.
Regina was a pile of bones in the bend of the Wascana. The bones long gone, but I still remember it that way. South to Windsor, through Detroit, Ma and I took the Greyhound, tunneled under its filthy river, running under the border through the Great Lakes from Ontario to Michigan. North to Detroit in a 1953 Dodge, Chrysler product, bought in Windsor, where my sister worked at the Ford plant. It was October. Asked for the New Year's model, 1953 Dodge 3-speed overdrive. My mother couldn't drive the overdrive. 14 or so years old, learning to drive through the Roosevelt Tunnel, felt the pressure in my head. My nosebleed started to flow, rivering blood for 100 miles on the red vinyl seats of that 53 Dodge. Sure, I'm glad we got the red vinyl. North to Pile of Bones, going north without a road map or compass. That wasn't included in the sticker price, only the names of rivers to bring us back home. I still remember them that way, the rivers. Remember them backwards, reading highway signs to stay awake on that Greyhound, gone south to Windsor, naming off rivers. Wascana Creek, Capel, Assiniboine Red. They named the rivers so beautiful, the rivers so beautiful.